Coming up on Tech News Today, Chromecast getting all the apps. Spoofed GPS sends a ship off course. We'll explain why. And full specs leak for a hot new Kindle Fire HD. All that and more coming up.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by CashFly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Tech News Today for Tuesday, July 30th, 2013. Tech News Today is brought to you by Squarespace, the all-in-one platform that makes it fast and easy to create your own professional website or online portfolio. For a free trial and 10% off, go to squarespace.com and use offer code TNT7. And by Gazelle, the fast and simple way to sell your used gadgets. Find out what your used Samsung Galaxy, iPhone, and other smartphones are worth at Gazelle.com. And by GoToMeeting with HD Faces by Citrix, the powerfully simple way to meet and collaborate with colleagues and clients from anywhere. You can share the same screen and see each other face-to-face with HD video conferencing, even from an iPad. Sign up for your 30-day free trial today. Visit GoToMeeting.com, click on the Try It Free button, and use promo code TNT. Welcome to Tech News Today. I'm Tom Merritt.
I'm Sarah Lane.
I'm Aya Zakhtar.
And I'm Jason Howell.
And this is the show where we keep you up to date on the most important stories in the tech world, put them in some context for you, starting with the top 10 stories of the day, the news fuse. If you're jealous of that snappy new Nexus 7, but you can't quite make the jump from your old Nexus 7 yet, good news. Brian Klug of AnandTech reports Android 4.3 manages and optimizes the tablet's flash memory better, meaning it won't get slower over time. 4.3 enables support for FS Trim, which trims blocks not in use by the file system. The program runs regularly, keeping your flash memory optimized for input and output. You can explain that to your friends by saying it's kind of like defrag and keeps your tablet running fast. That's the important part.
Netflix's new user profiles have begun rolling out to the Apple TV, and it lets you use your personal accounts in order to keep your viewing info and your recommendations separate from anyone else that you might share your television with. The profiles also let you set up per-account parental controls and makes the service's social features like sharing what you're watching to Facebook more useful. Your Netflix profile photo is also getting pulled in from Facebook, so choose your mug wisely.
iOS 7 Beta 4 has been out for a few days, which means people started digging into it to get some clues about the next iPhone. The latest code makes reference to biometric controls on the home button, which is in line with the rumors that the next iPhone will ship with a fingerprint sensor. 9to5Mac says the UI for the fingerprint scanning system is complete and will be used to unlock the phone.
HTC issued guidance for its third quarter, expecting around $1.67 billion to $2 billion in revenue with an operating profit of anything from nothing to minus 8%. Last year in Q3, HTC had $168 million of operating profit. CEO Peter Chow blames the decline on higher bill of materials and operating costs, as well as inventory that needs to be cleared. Chow expects things to turn around after Q3.
Google's Chromecast, you know, that streaming video adapter that got all that attention last week, is kind of the belle of the video ball already. Vimeo and Redbox Instant both say they'll support the device, and the team at Plex Media Center are also hinting at support. But wait, there's more. Code found by Chromecast hackers indicates Chromecast may bring HBO Go to the platform. This would be in addition to users streaming media from YouTube, Netflix, and Google Play already, with a number of additional services like Pandora, AOL, and Revision 3 on the way.
You know what the U.S. smartphone market needs? Another player. Get ready for Asus to enter the U.S. smartphone race starting next year. Asus chairman Johnny Shi says that while they are latecomers, 2014 is a reasonable time for the company to bring its phones to the States. She didn't mention any specifics, but maybe a pad phone or phone pad is in our future.
You're saying they're a player?
Player,
no,
yo.
you didn't say that. The Kingdom of Thailand just became the first country to outlaw bitcoins. Bitcoin Company Limited in Thailand recently met with the Bank of Thailand to make sure they were applying for the proper licenses and registrations in that country. After initially ruling that Bitcoin was not a currency, the bank decided that due to a lack of existing laws and capital controls, buying, selling, sending, or receiving Bitcoins is against the law in Thailand until they figure it all out. No word on when the bank plans to figure it all out.
Time Warner Cable has begun notifying customers that they'll have to pay more to rent modems from the cable company. For example, subscribers that now are on the most popular internet plan pay about $3.95 per month, and that fee will raise to $5.99 per month starting in the next billing cycle. The higher rate could generate an additional $150 million in revenue this year, so one doesn't really need to stretch the mind too hard to figure out why Time Warner is interested in this. Also, Time Warner Cable has about 12 million customers.
Buy your own modem. That's what I say. Facebook just became a game publisher. At the Casual Connect conference, Facebook announced a pilot program for small and medium game developers to provide promotional support and placement in Facebook's mobile apps. The idea is to help indie developers without the big marketing budgets to get noticed. TechCrunch reports some big names like Brainbow, Kiwi, and Gameloft are already part of the program.
Good news and bad news from Sprint's financials. The good news, Sprint reported $7.2 billion in earnings, which is its highest ever total. The bad news, Sprint took a net loss of $1.6 billion in the quarter due to shutting down Nextel and a large depreciation charge. Sprint says 4 million Nextel subscribers moved on over to Sprint since the transition started back in early 2011.
This episode of Tech News Today brought to you by Squarespace. You know how much we like Squarespace, the all-in-one platform that makes it easy to create your own professional website or online portfolio. I use it for a couple of sites, bunch of sites. And now I'd like you to check out some of the sites you guys have built. Got one from Gordon McLeod yesterday. If you want to be mentioned on a future show, send a tweet with a link to your Squarespace website and use the hashtag TNT Squarespace. After we get a few of those, we'll take a look, and we might choose one to mention in future episodes. They're constantly improving their platform at Squarespace, too. This is why you're going to love them. It always is better every time you log in to use it. Plus, it's beautiful. The designs can make you look like a genius, especially if you're a design idiot like I am. You don't have to know anything. You just go in and pick a few colors, put the template in there. You got a beautiful looking website, award-winning designs, and it's easy to use. They make it easier to use all the time with drag and drop. Inexpensive. It starts just at $8 a month and includes a free domain name if you sign up for a year. Mobile-ready designs, so they look right on every platform. Even their code is beautiful. We talk all the time about the designs. The code, they take just as much pride in their back-end code as they do their front-end design. It's elegant stuff. SEO optimized, hosting included. Don't take my word for it. Start a trial. You don't even have to give them a credit card. Start building your website. When you decide to sign up for Squarespace, make sure to use the offer code TNT7 to get 10% off and show your support for Tech News Today. And don't forget to send that tweet, hashtag TNT Squarespace, and we could choose your Squarespace site to mention on a future episode. We thank Squarespace for their support of Tech News Today. Squarespace, everything you need to create an exceptional website. Let's welcome in our guest for today's discussion stories. Very happy to have Danny Sullivan, editor-in-chief of Search Engine Land, back on the show. Good to see you, Danny.
Thanks for having me back. Good to be here.
Let's start off talking about GPS spoofing. The University of Texas has an interesting guy, Todd Humphreys. He's a professor. He and his students have recently demonstrated GPS spoofing on a yacht. They previously demonstrated unmanned aerial vehicles. They were able to GPS spoof drones. Now what they've done is they took the White Rose of Drax out for a cruise. They were going from Monaco to Rhodes, and about 30 miles offshore of Italy, back in June, they were able to spoof the GPS system. They were actually on the ship. They were on the upper deck. So it was a test. They weren't doing this to be mean. And they were able to send signals that masked the actual GPS signals. And the pilot of the ship took the boat 3 degrees off course, thinking they were course correcting. Now, there's a paper from the University of Oklahoma researchers from 2011 suggests several anti-spoofing algorithms that could stop this sort of thing. Things like Doppler shift, relative power shifts. And Kyle Wesson and Brian Evans, 2 of Todd Humphreys' students, as well as Professor Humphreys, have a forthcoming paper under review called A Combined Symmetric Difference in Power Monitoring GNSS Anti-Spoofing Technique. So they're doing all of this in order to stop the spoofing. And you may think, well, wait a minute, what about the military? Military uses P code. That's heavily encrypted. That's not the problem. It's the consumer stuff that's open to the public, what's called the CA code. That's the issue. So they've demonstrated this. It's they're trying to raise awareness about the fact that, hey, commercial GPS could be a problem. Danny, do you think we should issue sextants to everyone, including people in cars?
Even without spoofing, my GPS seems to manage to get me lost anyway. So perhaps spoofing would be a good thing.
Maybe it's spoof you back
me
on
spin
track,
around in a circle. I don't know. It's funny. I was thinking about it. I was like, well, gosh, that sounds like old school. I'll put a magnet next to the compass, and now I've managed to hack the compass. So, what I couldn't tell, and I haven't had a chance to watch the video, is I wonder how close you actually have to be and how much power you have to transmit. Because if it's, I can be miles away from you and spoof you, that's a big deal. If it's I actually have to be on the ship or have to actually be on the plane, then that's a whole nother issue where perhaps it's not as big a deal as it sounds like. It was much more a concern, I would think, if it's somehow you can do this in mass and hit a whole bunch of people. But I imagine we're going to see some tightening up of how people deal with GPS if it turns into a real problem.
Yeah, I mean, what about the sea pirates that we hear about taking control of ships? I mean, if you're not on the deck and you have limited ability to take a ship off course, then maybe it's not a huge threat. But what if you are? I mean, it's kind of like taking over a plane or something. I mean, the implications are pretty scary. Why can't everybody use P code, Tom? Is that unrealistic?
Well, because they don't want to give away the encryption that the military uses to the public. Mm-hmm. So but the solution to that is don't use the same encryption. Come up with a different way of encrypting CA. A lot of people don't want to do that because they say that gets away from the openness of the signal if everybody has to also decrypt it. So there's several other suggestions here, which is that you could tell by the power shifts, you could tell by the Doppler shifts that you're being spoofed. They already have protections against jamming and things like that. So I think what they're trying to do here is to raise awareness. This could be done. Theoretically, it could be done from over the horizon by a pirate ship like you guys are talking about and kind of lure someone off course, even if they didn't demonstrate it that way this time. All right, let's move on to something less piratey. It's safe to go out on your ships for now. This is much more fun, Ayaz. Vimeo and Redbox are leading a wave of apps coming to Chromecast. We heard a little bit about this in the news feed.
Yeah, GigaOM reporting that Vimeo and Redbox Instant are planning to support Chromecast. And GigaOM heard that Plex is hinting it's going to bring support to Chromecast as well, which would give you local media streaming in your home network to the Chromecast, which is something it can't do right now. CJ Hears hacked into the Chromecast and found a ton of data showing lots of different apps looks like they're being tested. HBO Go Songs revision 3. And so far, Chromecast only supports YouTube, Netflix, Google Play, or a Chrome tab. It looks like some really big players are finally coming to Chromecast. Danny, do you think this is going to make the device appeal to non-nerds?
It's interesting. Over the weekend, I did this big comparison chart where I was putting it up against the Roku and the Apple TV, as well as the Xbox, and that lack of having the HBO Go or the lack of having Hulu, to me, were like essential channels that they really needed to have. That I feel like if you're buying one of these stream media devices, those sorts of things are important. And yeah, I think that if they add in more of that kind of support, it really will appeal to the non-nerd. It's been interesting. A number of people have been saying, well, you can mirror anything from the Chrome, from Chrome, from a tab. And I'm like, well, no, that is a nerd feature, right? I mean, if I want to see something on my laptop, on my TV, maybe I'll just watch it on my laptop. For me, these kinds of devices that it goes against the Apple TV or the Roku, that really is the non-nerd sitting on the couch, not wanting to open anything up and not wanting anything bigger that can fit into their hand to do it. And that means for the Chromecast, what can you do off of your smartphone? So if you can get more of these apps that are in there, if they really do come along, especially with the miracle of making something like HBO Go work, which they haven't been able to. Sorry, it's not HBO Go. It's Hulu that. For 3 years now, Hulu keeps saying, if you ask them officially, yeah, we're working on a solution to come up with Google TV, as if they don't have like the technical chops to make it happen. And the reality has been that they don't like Google, and they don't like some of the things that Google does. They don't feel like Google fights enough of the piracy, and so they just don't want to make it happen on Google TV. So yeah, Vimeo comes in, some of these other players come in, but I think especially if you got something like an HBO Go actually happened, I think that cracks it open even more. But even at $35, it's like, yeah, it's almost like a toy. It's like stocking stuffer when we get into that, the holiday season.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, I look at this and I'm really watching that Hulu aspect of it as well, because theoretically I can run Hulu in a Chrome tab and mirror that to Chromecast. And if that continues to work, if they don't block that, I don't know. Did you try that, Danny?
I haven't tried it yet. I want to go back and look at it, but I talked to Google about it, and to block that, they have to block Chrome. I mean,
okay, so there's not a separate user agent for Chromecast.
Yeah, I was really drilling down, and finally somebody at the press event told me, it was like, because with Google TV, when Google TV makes a request, they can tell that it's Google TV making that request. It has its own user agent. Chromecast apparently doesn't have a user agent. The user agent that's making the request is actually coming from whatever device you're using. So to block Chromecast, you have to block the device. So if you fired up your request from Chrome on your PC, the only way Hulu blocks that is to block any request from Chrome on the PC. And since Chrome's like, what, 25% now? I mean, that's a lot of blocking you want to do.
Yeah, they're not going to do that.
Yeah. And I suspect that that's also going to cause people like Hulu to be even more angry, because now they really don't know what to do. Because it doesn't just block Hulu. One of the problems that Google TV had originally was that you couldn't get any of the television network content, even off Hulu, right? NBC, ABC, CBS, Fox, they quickly came in and blocked them. Well, now it's all back. Just fire up your laptop if you want to do it. It's just not as convenient to do it through the laptop, but it's certainly changing the space a lot, I think.
I was talking to the guys at the Big Show, and they were pretty down on the Chromecast when it comes to this device appealing to a broad bunch of people, because it does require that second screen. You have to have something else to control it. While I find it to be a brilliant idea that you can have an interface that you already know and you can send things to your television, I'm just kind of curious. Even if you have all these apps that have this little Chromecast button, are people going to actually go out and buy a $35 device that doesn't do anything on its own? Like, it requires another device already. I just can't see this appealing to everybody.
But I mean, the Apple TV, the Roku, that all needs another device. They're nothing without a television screen of some kind.
Well, okay, if you're counting the TV, all right, fine.
Well, and you need a remote.
What if you've got a Chromecast and you've got a TV? What is that extra device that makes it so much less compelling for people?
Well, you have to control it with your phone or tablet or your laptop, right? You always have to have something out instead of, I guess, a dumb remote control. And the thing doesn't stream content on its own, so you have to have another device.
Yeah, I'd love to ditch all my remotes and just use whatever is sitting next to me, which is always my phone or a tablet or something anyway. I think that makes a lot more sense, but I guess I can see where it would just confuse certain people. Like Danny said, I think the price point is so attractive that when you hear stuff like, oh, HBO and Netflix and I like all that stuff, cool. I want to get into this whole on-demand television market. The Chromecast seems pretty attractive to people.
Well, one of the things I found that really surprised me was that I brought it home, I plugged it in, and when it's on your Wi-Fi network, then anybody who's on that Wi-Fi network can control the device, which is kind of scary on the one hand, but then it's kind of fun. And where it really started to shine was like my wife pulled up her YouTube account. I had my YouTube account, and because I'm logged into my YouTube account, I can see some of our, like family videos that aren't public. And it was really easy for me to fire those up, as opposed to Apple TV, where did she log into Apple TV to get YouTube, or am I logged into Apple TV to get YouTube, and I'm clicking up with it from there? And I was already logged in on my device, so that was where the smartphone aspect of it really shined. Plus, this whole playlist feature, that this was something when the Nexus Q came out that they talked about was going to be happening. And I was literally watching it happen where she's like throwing a YouTube video up and I'm going, no, we're going to watch this. No, we're going to put this thing up there. And so, if as a novelty device for $35, I think it will be appealing to a lot of people who aren't necessarily nerds but want to have something cool and kind of play with. It's just an easy way to get video off your computer. It's even the price of an HDMI cable, assuming that you stupidly buy the HDMI cable without buying, but you know what I mean, right? Yeah. You walk into Best Buy, it's like, here's the HDMI cable. That's $60. That's what you need, but you can get the cables for less, but it's going to run you like $8. And here's something that for $35, it worked. It worked really well. So I think it's got some legs to it, especially if they bring back that Netflix offer, which basically made it almost free.
Real quickly, for those following the Bradley Manning trial, the verdict was just announced a few minutes ago. And if you don't know, Bradley Manning, of course, accused of espionage for leaking secrets to WikiLeaks. Private Manning was found not guilty of aiding the enemy. That would be the charge that would carry a life sentence in prison. He was convicted of 5 counts of espionage for stealing the secret documents and providing them to WikiLeaks. So guilty of espionage, but not guilty of the more serious charge of aiding the enemy, which is definitely probably the best case scenario he could have hoped for. Let's move along. One of the things going back to Chromecast is the device you have needs to be able to control Chromecast. It only works on Android and iOS. If you got a Windows phone, now you got to find some other device or use your laptop. I wonder if the Kindle Fire HD, which runs a forked version of Android, will control the Chromecast. We got a rumor about some new specs from the HD, Sarah.
Yeah, Boy Genius Report, some short time ago, had some details on 3 new tablets Amazon is launching this year. So you've got your entry-level Kindle Fire, and then in more detail, we've got specs for the Kindle Fire HD 7-inch edition, and then the larger 8.9-inch Kindle Fire HD. So, everybody gets a big boost. The 7-inch version would have a 920 by 1200 pixel display resolution, or a new pixel display, a new design, quad-core Qualcomm Snapdragon 800 system on a chip. In fact, both of the 7 and 8.9 would have that same chip. Prototypes are said to be clocked at about 2 gigahertz. You can upgrade to 2 gigabytes of RAM. There's a front-facing camera, Wi-Fi, available data plan. Will ship in 16 gig, 32 gig, 64 gigs of internal storage. And then internal tests, at least as far as Boy Genius's sources say, it's running Android 4.2.2 Jelly Bean with heavy customizations that come from Amazon. The 8.9-inch Fire HD, largely the same specs, although it does have an 8-megapixel rear camera. The 7-inch model reportedly will not have a rear camera at all. Both are supposed to be lighter than the former models. Performance up to 3 times better, so it's kind of faster and snappier. But yeah, not a lot of other details besides kind of what's inside them. I guess my question is, we've heard about, the new Nexus 7. Everybody seems to think that that's, a really great device. iPad mini, unless things change, not a lot of reports out of things really changing. Maybe there's going to be a small update to the device, but it's still going to be priced a lot higher than anything that Amazon pushes out. We don't have specific prices for these Kindle Fire HDs, but if memory serves, Amazon is okay with undercutting that sort of thing in order to sell more units and then sell more services. What do we think? Who's Amazon gunning for now? In the tablet space, I don't know if the iPad Mini is really what you can compare a Kindle Fire to. Danny, what do you think?
I think you can compare it to it. And in fact, I went through this last year at Christmas time because I wanted to get my sister a tablet, like a little small one. And I was like, do I get the mini? Do I get at the time, the Nexus was like $200, or there was the Kindle Fire. And I think it does compete up with that, people in the budget price. It would have been a lot less expensive to go for the Kindle route. And if you had Amazon Prime, there are a lot of advantages to it as well. And so, I think it is appealing to that same kind of audience. But I don't know that it's compelling enough beyond the price. If you're just looking for a budget thing, at first it really was great. And now you got the Nexus 7, and it's like, well, why do I want this thing that's not quite Android but is Android when I can get all that and more without any of the limitations by just buying Nexus 7? So then I think that kind of starts setting the Kindle Fire off onto its side. And then beyond that, it's like, well, then if I'm getting the Nexus 7, do I still want the iPad mini or not? And I think it's just, for me, ultimately, it came down to the fact that I knew my family also was using other Mac products, so it was still worth the premium to ultimately get the iPad. So I think it's a much harder case. It's interesting because if I remember right, I think that Amazon really did cause this 7-inch model to come into fruition. That we had other people who were doing it, but they made it so cut rate that suddenly it seemed viable. That that this almost phablet type of thing, and now it's it's an attractive space form factor. People do like it, and there's lots of competition. I just don't know that even unless you're really tied into Amazon a lot, and you want things like I don't know, the ability to check out a book. You can do that on the Amazon Kindle Fire, you couldn't do that, like, use their lending library on any other tablet device. I just don't know if you want to go for it or not.
I think that what you're going to see is Amazon come out with a really cheap tablet. I don't know whether it'll be $199, $149, $99, but this is a race to the bottom for these guys. I don't even think they're gunning for each other. They're gunning for your pocketbook. They're trying to figure out, like, how can we make the best, cheapest tablet? And Apple doesn't historically compete on price, so I don't expect them to bother with that part of things. They're going to continue to compete on quality or perceived quality or ecosystem. And Amazon can afford more than Google. Well, maybe not more than Google. They make their revenue in different ways, but they can afford to say, let's sell this almost at cost or even maybe below cost a little bit and hope that spurs Amazon sales. That's been the idea with the Kindle all along.
Yeah, the thing about Amazon is I don't know if they're gunning after Apple at all. They might be gunning after Google's Nexus and Google Android in general, because they refuse to come up with an application for Amazon Video for Android. You can do it with workarounds, you can do it with the web browser, but that's not as elegant as when you want to watch Amazon content. You can watch it on an iPad just fine, but if you want to watch it on an Android device, you can't unless you're using a Fire or a Fire HD. So if anything, if they're going to pick which ones they're going after, I'm thinking it's going after that Nexus, because at the prices that Amazon offers, they're dirt cheap, and these specs pretty much they're on par or better than the Nexus 7 that just came out, a 2 gigahertz processor compared to the 1.5 gigahertz of the Nexus 7. I'm actually quite impressed that Amazon's putting in so much speed and performance in what's essentially a video and book consumption device.
All right, let's take a quick break and thank our other sponsor, Gazelle. This episode of Tech News Today brought to you by Gazelle. And we're always talking about new stuff coming down the pike. So if you want to be able to afford it a little better, one of the ways you can do that is sell your old stuff. You want a new Galaxy S4, HTC One, maybe that Moto X we're going to hear about on Thursday? You can sell your old iPhone. You can even get a new iPhone 5. Sell your old iPhone. And the best thing about Gazelle is that you can get a quote right now. You can find out how much they'll give you risk-free. Lock it in for 30 days. Take a month to decide if you really want to switch or to buy the new phone and get all your data moved over. Then you sell it off to Gazelle, and they will turn it around fast, check your condition, send you your cash by PayPal or check or Amazon gift card. You get a 5% bonus with that. Gazelle is now buying back a larger selection of tablets, too. It's not just phones. In addition to the iPad, you can sell select Samsung, Google Nexus, Kindle Fire, Microsoft Surface, Asus tablets. Get paid in cash fast. I do it a lot. One of the people are like, you're always buying these new gadgets. That's one of the ways I'm able to subsidize that. Find out what your tablet, your iPhone, your Samsung, your Android smartphone is worth. Take a minute and go to Gazelle.com. Sell your used Samsung Galaxy or iPhone today at Gazelle.com. We thank them for their support of Tech News Today. Onward to more smartphones coming. We mentioned this IAS in the news fuse. Asus wanting to get into the U.S. market for phones.
Yeah, Asus. This isn't a rumor or anything. This is from the top. Asus chairman Johnny Sheet telling All Things D that the company's looking to bring its smartphones to the U.S. market next year. And they make a bunch of phones that are sold everywhere else. They make the Pad phone. That's that Android smartphone that docks into a tablet shell, making it a tablet. They make the Phone Pad, which is a 7-inch tablet that can make phone calls. And obviously, Asus is pretty well known in the U.S. They make the Nexus 7, although the branding is really tiny. They also make tablets and laptops. We've seen all kinds of things there. And if you remember, the history buffs like Tom, the last time Asus was in the smartphone game in the U.S., it was behind the Garmin Asus Garmin phone. If you remember that GPS phone.
Right, I forgot about the Garmin phone.
Right, because it was so talked about, and then it was so late, and it got destroyed by everybody else. It looks like in the U.S., nobody seems to notice anybody but Samsung or Apple. Danny, do you think Asus can make a dent?
Danny, you're muted. Sorry about that.
That's because I had a cough earlier, and I thought I switched it back on the other way. I feel like, as many people have been saying, it just seems like it's shaped up into this sort of Google, Samsung, Apple kind of space. So I don't know. Part of me feels like they might do a better job if they had their own kind of flagship phone that was out there, something akin to an HTC One or the Galaxy 4. But I can't say that those things have necessarily helped HTC. So, maybe the strategy of tossing out all sorts of different things and being everywhere and all at once, may be successful for them.
It's interesting that where we see a market being dominated by all accounts, more and more companies are trying to get into it. There's all kinds of companies in China, and we mentioned a few of them like Xiaomi, from time to time. But there's also Mozilla is trying to make an operating system and get phones out there. There's that spin-off company from Nokia, Yola, making their own phone and getting it out there. Meanwhile, BlackBerry, Windows Phone, Nokia, they're all trying to scratch back into this game. So I'm curious what it is that makes this market so attractive. I guess when you have two huge incumbents like that, you figure like, well, they're got to be getting old and slow. They got to be resting on their laurels a little bit. Maybe they drive each other. But if we're smart, we're small and agile, maybe we can get in there and turn this game around. And that must be what Asus is thinking, is that the U.S. market is ripe for disruption.
Yeah, and the hard thing is I've been using the S4, and it's been interesting for me because it really has pulled me away from the iPhone 5. But none of the things that Samsung has done on that has caused that to happen. It hasn't been like, oh, I can wave my fingers and do this, or I can tap it like that, or whatever. I mean, the things that I found most attractive to me was that it simply had a larger screen. It was a nice screen, and I had LTE on it, and it worked really fast. And so I suppose the distinction between that and the iPhone really was just the bigger screen. It was one thing I couldn't get. With these other devices that come in, I don't know. I'm curious, when you walk into that store, if you go into the store and you're trying to think among the different options you have there, what is it that pulls you? The Motorola people certainly tried to play the whole you can have a longer battery life game, and it sounds like they're going to try to do that more, but I can't say that seemed like it helped the Droid sales that much. Just the nice attractive device aspect to it. I've seen plenty of people rave about the HTC One. And I guess the sales are there, although it doesn't seem to have helped their bottom line so much with it from
Certainly
there.
not this quarter, right?
Yeah. So, it's just hard to say. I mean, I agree with you. It's like people, I guess, I don't know if they look like, well, there's all this money being made in smartphones. We better get one of ours out there as well. And it's like, well, I don't know quite what you're going to do. I suppose at least you're not like Facebook coming out with the One or whatever.
The first. I think if Asus can get together with Google and have their own Nexus phone, that like next year, that seemed to help LG a lot, because I don't think people even think of the Nexus 4 as an LG product, but it's giving them a lot of gain in the worldwide smartphone market. So maybe that's the way to really enter into the U.S., because then you have marketing power of Google. But then again, Google's probably got its interests kind of all over the place between its Nexus line and its Motorola division, with that Moto X coming out on, was it Thursday?
Although it is interesting that, I think that Asus had probably scored a bit of a win where they got to do the Nexus 7 that just came out really is like the Nexus 8, right? This was their next tablet. And so it's interesting because they usually would come out with these different devices and they would work with a particular partner. So, Samsung would be their partner on one kind of phone, and then the next phone would come out and it would be Motorola, and then it would go on to be HTC. And here, they didn't go to another partner and say, all right, we want to do the update of the Nexus 7. We're going to work with Motorola on it this time to freshen it. So it may be too early to tell, but is the Nexus 7 now an Asus device? And if so, hey, that's a pretty nice bit of security for your company, if it's going to stay on that way.
And that may be what's tempting them, right? Hey, we're doing pretty well with that tablet. Let's figure out how we can do a phone as well. Maybe that's, I don't know. There's lots of ways they could go with that.
From the people
let's talk about. Yeah, exactly. Let's talk a little bit about Fab, the shopping site, changing their strategy. Sarah, is this the end of flash mob sale attack tactics?
Well, possibly. You guys can hear me okay, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, good. Okay, so Fab has laid off about 100 people, a little bit less than that, at their headquarters in Berlin. Some of the staff not being laid off, but being relocated to New York City. And this is sort of interesting timing, because just about a month ago, Fab announced it had raised $150 million in a Series D round, with more funding coming soon. Fab, of course, is a place to basically buy a lot of really neat stuff, and it's a flash sale model. So the idea is that you go to Fab on a regular basis, preferably daily, and they've got all sorts of great deals for a short period of time. That's what they mean by flash sales. So it's like this beautiful Turkish rug is, normally $500, and if you buy, we only have a limited amount for $300. So there's a little bit of a sense of urgency, and people love a good sale. So it's a model that Fab has been using along with other companies for a while. Well, CEO Jason Goldberg says, the flash sale model is really hard to scale. What they've had to do up until this point is basically run two of the same company, one in the US and one in Europe, in order to keep up with demand. The problem with flash sale models is, although it can be popular and you get a lot of interest, you're sometimes turning over your inventory on a daily basis. What Fab wants to do is move away from that model and move more into a single global store. Goldberg says, if you've got a flash sale model, every day you're opening a new store with hundreds, if not thousands of products. We don't want to replicate the same operation in two different markets, in two different continents. The best stores, you buy once, you sell everywhere, or you make it in-house, and then you sell everywhere. I guess it's interesting. It's too bad that some people got laid off at Fab, although they do have new positions that are open. Just basically, the positions are moving in a different direction. But I wonder if flash sales are kind of, going the way of Groupon in general, because if you can never really get big enough, where's the end to it? If Fab finds success as a global store, I mean, who's it competing with now? It's an Amazon, a specialty Amazon. Danny, do you think that this is a smart move for Fab?
I've never even done a flash sale, so it won't make an impact on me. But I mean, the Amazon comparison is interesting. I mean, rather than chase that sort of stuff, I've tended to just go straight towards Amazon because I usually consistently know I'm going to get what I want at a pretty good price. So, if their shift is to be a rival to Amazon, maybe. I mean, I liked your analogy of our flash sales to new Groupon. The Groupon and the offers things seem to go through this sweet period where people were all in love with them and they kind of went off. And if that's the same sort of thing happening with flash sales, then yeah, a pivot into a new direction probably makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, is Woot considered the first of the big flash sale? I mean, they seem to have pioneered that territory a little bit, and I feel like they're still kicking, and that's still a great thing. But they focus a lot more.
Yeah, but Amazon bought Woot.
Yeah, and they also got some Amazon money behind them. That certainly doesn't hurt. That's a great point.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, just Fab is if you're going to compete head to head with Amazon, like we are a global superstore. Well, then what are you? I mean, your specialty items that you can't get at Amazon, or do you just become some sort of here's a special division of a company like Amazon?
Yeah, they're acquisition bait at this point, I think. I don't know I can't think of a company that can really compete with Amazon to its scale, because Amazon goes out and just buys other companies like Woot. They bought soap.com, and they own Zappos. So if there's a company that has a good corporate culture and actually has a reach, Amazon just goes out and buys it. Although I don't know if they need the Fab brand. They have their gold box deals, very similar kind of thing. And they have Woot, which has been around for so long. So, I mean, other than hoping to build yourself up to get bought, I don't know if Fab can compete with Amazon.
Maybe the deal is that to do a flash sale type approach is more of a get people in the door thing. Even Woot has a lot more than they used to. It's no longer just the one thing a day. And it's an entree into another way of selling things, and that may be what Fab realized is, it's just not worth it to do that when we're not bringing them into anything else. Let's build the anything else. There's a lot more money there. Finish up with Thailand and Bitcoin. We mentioned it in the news fuse. Bitcoin now illegal in Thailand. If you missed that part or you don't remember, the Bank of Thailand, the official Bank of Thailand, first said, well, you're not a currency, so don't worry about registration. Then they called him back, had a conference, and the guys did a big song and dance about the benefits of Bitcoin, how awesome it is. And the bank said, yeah, you're absolutely right. And therefore, you are a currency, and none of our laws cover you. So until we figure that out, you can't buy Bitcoins, you can't sell Bitcoins, you can't buy any goods or services in exchange for Bitcoins, you can't sell any goods or services for Bitcoins, and you can't send Bitcoins outside of Thailand or receive them from anyone located outside of Thailand. That's a long way of saying Bitcoin's now illegal in Thailand until we get around to this. That's one way to deal with Bitcoin. They're the first country to outlaw it. Is that significant for this currency, which against many people's opinions seems to be catching on and is a darling of venture capitalists? Danny, what do you think?
I think there's a long ways for Bitcoin to go. I don't think it's too well. I suppose you could read it in two ways. On the one hand, you could say this isn't good for Bitcoin, that it's going to be outlawed, and you got a government, yet another government tried to do some sort of crackdowns on it. And on the other hand, it kind of almost has the government's forced to recognize that, yeah, there is this alternative currency. And if it's not just Bitcoin, that people may decide that they want to have currencies that are not, cash, that are not these government-backed securities. And maybe that will cause them to come up with mechanisms to figure out, well, how do we regulate this stuff, or how do we protect this stuff, or how do we come up with a mechanism where people say, I want to have my money expressed as this thing. Then, I think it's going to be difficult for any government to ultimately outlaw that sort of stuff. People express values and do exchanges in all sorts of ways. And I think in the long run, what's going to happen is you're just going to have the governments doing some catch up to figuring out, well, how can we tax Bitcoin? As soon as they figure out a way to do that and say, all right, we'll give you backing on Bitcoin. We'll do all this stuff or whatever. And by the way, you'll have to file every year how many Bitcoins you have. And then you're going to have to pay, your regular income tax on top of that or whatever. And they figure that they can make money off of it. Then I think it may hang in there as a way of going.
It does seem to me to indicate that Bitcoin is still considered viable, or maybe is more considered viable. I think Bank of Thailand had a very natural reaction to this, which is, oh, that thing, it's not really currency. Don't worry about it. And then said, wait a minute, maybe this is currency, and maybe we need to worry about it. I'm just curious how long it's going to take them to get around to changing the law or enacting new regulations to allow Bitcoin to be traded, or whether they'll try to stonewall it.
I guess it would depend on the amount of activity that activity of Bitcoin trading or transactions that occurred in the country. Because as Danny's saying, if they can figure out a way to tax it, if it's actually worth their time to figure out how to implement a system to get money off of it, then it would make sense to go do this. The question is, how often was this happening? Or did they just find something on Reddit one day and go, oh, what is this Bitcoin? Oh, crud, we need to outlaw it because we don't know what it is. Just curiosity as to how often these transactions happened in Thailand.
Yeah. All right, let's finish up with a randomizer. Now, normally we do a vote in straw poll with the chat room that's watching live with the randomizer, but we only had one under consideration today, a story about this patch makes you invisible to mosquitoes. But I know people like to have choices, so I gave the chat room the choice. Should we talk about the patch that makes you invisible to mosquitoes, or ask Sarah to tell us the latest hot cat meme?
Mm-hmm.
The patch of mosquitoes was winning most of the time until just now. Sarah telling us the latest hot cat meme
51-49.
just nudged ahead.
Who saw that coming?
Sarah, are you prepared to tell us the latest hot cat meme?
Oh my gosh. I thought I was in the clear here. Not that I don't want to take this on, of course.
Because, I think we would all love to talk about the kite patch. And the fact that you could wear it on your clothing.
Can cats wear it?
Can you get cats to wear the patch, and then we're set?
I think you could. You don't even have to put it on your skin. You just wear it, and apparently it gets rid of the mosquitoes. But there's no details about how. It's about the same price as a Chromecast. About $35.
From the makers of Placebo comes Kite Patch. You will be protected. If this is real, this is pretty awesome. I could see Bill Gates buying a ton of these and giving them out. You know how he sometimes lets out mosquitoes at random conferences? Yeah. That wasn't freaky the one time he did that. They were male mosquitoes. They weren't biters. Or wait, were they female? Whatever one. The one that doesn't bite. That's the one he let out. It still was terrifying.
I don't want to leave everybody hanging, the cat meme lovers. So I will, for everyone who's watching the live show, this is a great reason to tune in live. In the chat room, I'll go ahead and add a link to an article profiling 8 cats that are prettier than humans.
Wow. That's bold.
That's right.
Bold.
They are good-looking felines.
Let's see these.
Shockingly comes from BuzzFeed with that title.
Yep.
Well, sure.
Yeah, okay.
Agreed.
Right, look at
I don't agree with the second one.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
That second one's eyes do look like an ocean after a storm.
Yeah.
I have to say.
Hubba.
Yeah. I don't know if that comes through on the video, but
nice beard.
It comes through the audio, though. It definitely does.
It certainly does. You can hear it.
You can hear the furriness and the attractiveness, the symmetry of these cats.
Can we go to 8 magical facts about unicorn when we get done? I just saw that going by on the side.
Of course.
This is how BuzzFeed gets you.
Breaking news.
Oh my God, it's terrible. It is
I want to
terrible.
give people what they ask for. You
Give the people what they
give
want.
me a straw poll and I win. I give you beautiful cats.
That is a deal. All right, before we get to the calendar, let's take a quick break and thank our other sponsor for today's show, GoToMeeting. It's summer, folks. Most places, it's freaking hot. Kids are out of school. Lots of places you'd rather be than sitting in an office. But even when you can't be at work, your business doesn't stop. Even if you are going away, people still want to do meetings and things like that. That's why GoToMeeting with HD Faces by Citrix is perfect. It's the powerfully simple way to meet and collaborate online. You can be away from the office, maybe at the beach even, if you got some good cell connection there. Stay connected to your coworkers and clients. Share ideas, problem solve, get projects done. With GoToMeeting, it just takes a click to share your screen. So point it away from the ocean and work on documents in real time. Turn on your webcam, make your meeting an HD video conference. Chris, just show them the ocean. Maybe it'll keep them interested in what you're talking about. The best part is you will see each other face to face. You'll be able to tell if they're paying attention to you and understanding what you're saying. It's like meeting in person. Easily launch or join a meeting from wherever you are, whenever you need to use your computer, your smartphone, your tablet. It works on all of them. You can even present from your iPad. We use it a lot. With all of us spread all over the place at Twit, it's a great way to bring everybody together. A lot of times we do it when we meet with clients, and they're all over the world sometimes. It's a great way to get meetings done and get them done productively. So try GoToMeeting free for 30 days. For this special offer, visit GoToMeeting.com, click the Try It Free button, and use the promo code TNT. Remember, use that promo code TNT. GoToMeeting. Meeting is believing. And we thank GoToMeeting and Citrix for their support of Tech News Today. Let's see what's on the calendar, Ms. Lane.
A couple things on the calendar. We got Yelp earnings report tomorrow. That is July 31st. Also, CBS and Time Warner Cable, you might remember, are in a bit of a squabble over retransmission numbers. The CBS's Time Warner Cable basically is saying CBS wants too much money and we don't want to give it to them. Time Warner is describing CBS's terms as outrageous, but they've set a Friday deadline to try to mend their fences and keep people in a variety of markets around the U.S. from no longer being able to get CBS programming. So apparently Time Warner Cable, as of midnight, had started shutting off markets, and then CBS said, wait, we want to work with you. So hopefully by Friday they'll figure something out.
This is their third deadline, by the way. Third deadline.
It's an undeadline.
Yeah. All right, let's see what's incoming.
Incoming message.
It's a message from Rich in lovely Cleveland. Tom and Posse, on the subject of Amazon crowdsourcing pilots, sounds like Amazon is just expanding what Netflix is already doing. I remember when House of Cards was created, part of the reason was that Netflix viewers really respond to political dramas, the writing of David Fincher, and the acting of Kevin Spacey, effectively giving it the best odds to guarantee interest, if not an all-out hit. As you guys stated, Amazon is just opening this up to select the best combination of writing, acting, and genre to generate viewer interest. It's a great idea to generate buzz before putting down any real investment. The only issue might be sustaining that interest until the pilot comes out. It's hard to maintain the status of a must-watch show if people that voted for it have to wait a couple of months.
No, these are all good points from Rich, as usual. I just don't see the voting on a pilot pitch generating a lot of buzz unless it's something like Firefly, right? Where it's like, oh my gosh, they want to bring that back? Yes. But just your general pilot, it would have to be something pretty amazing. And that amazingness would have to come through in a pilot pitch for it to be generating buzz. So I get the feeling this is more about publicity and general buzz than developing buzz around any specific show, maybe. I don't know, because Rich is right. It'd be hard to sustain that buzz. Well, that is it for this show, sad to say. But thank you, Danny Sullivan, for joining us. It's always a pleasure to have you along, man.
Thanks for having me. It's always great to be back.
Of course, you got great stuff going on at searchengineland.com. Anything going on there or any of your other projects you want to let people know about?
Oh, gosh. You know, well, I'm packing up to go on vacation, so I have to keep paying more
everybody
attention
come
to
along.
No, we've just been, covering the usual stuff, Google keeps giving all sorts of rules on what kinds of links are allowable and not allowable, which is generating a lot of attention over on search engine land, and then on marketing land, a lot of the attention there just staying focused on a lot of the social media networks and what they're kind of up to. And Chrome, we had a fun departure taking a look at what was going on with the whole Chromecast thing. So
sure. Well, and you've got a great staff over there, so I expect that search engine land will be perking along just fine. You deserve a vacation. So
it's got to that point where I can go, carry on, here are the keys, and see you later. I'll be back in a little while.
That's great. That's great, man. Congratulations on that.
Thanks.
All right. Don't forget, folks, you can vote on stories in our subreddit, technewstoday.reddit.com. It's one of the signals we pay attention to, kind of like Amazon with the pilot thing. We look and say, what are people into on the subreddit here? How many votes are these stories getting? And we look at that when we figure out what stuff we're going to cover each and every day. So get in there and submit some stories, vote on some stories, make some comments, do all three, technewstoday.reddit.com. You can find us on the web at twit.tv/TNT. You can email us, tnt@twit.tv, and you can give us a call and leave us a voicemail. Our number is 260-TNT-SHOW. Keep it around 30 seconds. We might play it on the show. Who knows? Make a good point. We'll be back tomorrow with my old co-host from the Buzz Out Loud days, Molly Wood, host of Always On CNET, and my current co-host on It's a Thing. We'll see you then.